in only his 8th career start and on his boss's birthday, Austin Cindric, as a rookie, delivers one of the best birthday gifts to Roger Penske, a Daytona 500 victory. Austin Cindric, I mean, Brad Keselowski, he's wanted to win this race for so many years. He's come so close in the 2-car, but the first year he's out of it and a rookie steps into the car, Austin Cindric wins the 500. I mean, that's just like, it's like, what are the odds of that? I mean, seriously, but honestly, what a fun race. I really enjoyed that race. We saw a lot of different guys up front. We saw some thrilling racing. We saw some guys getting out of control at times. We saw some wrecks, as expected. And it ended up with a new winner, right, to start off 2022, just like how 2021 started. We have a first-time winner in the Cup Series, and it's Austin Cindric for Team Penske. Yeah, he's already locked himself into the playoffs, one race in. He was in Team Penske equipment, so it wasn't too big of a question if he would make the playoffs, but if he could win, and he gets that out of the way very, very quickly. The first race of the next-gen car as well, he gets to say that he won that race. So, yeah, I mean, everything, that's like the dream for him. His first race for Penske, the first race of the next-gen car, and the Daytona 500 all at once. He gets the win. So, I mean, great race. Really was a great race, but Cindric drove a great race as well. He was able to avoid incidents. He was able to be up front. He led a good chunk of laps, I want to say, 10 to 15. Him and Blaney looked like the 2 strongest cars at time. But, you know, there were a lot of good cars today. We saw a lot of different leaders. I mean, heck, looking just at the top 10, Cindric led, Bubba led, Blaney led, Kyle Busch led, Keselowski led. So what's that? Half of the top 10 led laps in this race. There was a lot of good cars that crashed out to that led laps. Looking at the back of the field, Byron led a couple of laps. Hamlin, he was up there. I don't know if he led laps. So, you know, a lot of good guys who, you know, even maybe they didn't finish in the top 10, but they were involved in wrecks, led some laps, were up front, showing speed in the Daytona 500. It's always a fun race. Super speedways are always fun, especially the Daytona 500. But to see guys we don't usually see up front in this race was pretty fun, but exhilarating finish too. I mean, we haven't even covered that yet, and we've talked about a good 3 minutes of stuff almost already. So, yeah, absolutely thrilling finish. Austin Cindric got the lead on the restart, and he was able to hold off his teammate there, but it didn't come easy. He had to block Blaney, his teammate, into the wall. And then Bubba Wallace made a nice little move to the inside at the start-finish line, but couldn't quite get there, and Cindric was able to hold him off to win the Daytona 500. But, man, I mean, seriously, what a race. I mean, what a fun race. And, you know, a close finish like that, you don't know what's going to happen. And it finished under green this year. The last couple have ended with big, huge crashes. But this year, the big, huge crash happened after the checkered flag. Brad Keselowski, Michael McDowell, David Reagan all involved in a crash right at the start-finish line or a little bit after. But, yeah, Austin Cindric wins. I mean, we've anticipated this next-gen car for so long now. We've seen it race at the LA Coliseum, but this is the first points-paying race, and this is the first track that NASCAR has been on before that, you know, we get to see these next-gen cars on, and they've done a good chunk of testing, and we saw a lot of things happen during this race that I'll say aren't normal. And that's good and bad. We saw some tandem drafting actually come back. We haven't seen that in about 10 years, where 2 cars could push each other out to the front and actually hold their own as long as they stay together. But once you get that separation, it just kind of breaks up the momentum. You can't carry as much speed, and the pack is able to close back to you. So you couldn't break away into 2-car tandem, or like for a long period of time, but, you know, you could potentially push someone out into a corner or, you know, push someone down the back stretch if you had locked bumpers. So that was a very interesting thing to see. We'll see how that plays out in the future of the next-gen car at super speedways, but that was a fun aspect to see the runs that were gained and stuff. Not as big. The runs that were gained weren't necessarily as big as, you know, 2019 with the Gen 6 and that super speedway package where it's like everyone had a run and they were just able to run people over, that kind of thing. But you were able to gain a run. You were able to shove people way out there. And that was kind of fun to see. And then also how the guys kind of defended the lines. Do you go top? Do you stick with your buddies, you know, maybe your manufacturer buddies, your teammates? Do you stick with them in line and let them potentially push you or get past, or do you block? That was kind of fun to see. But yeah, that was one aspect that I really enjoyed of this race in terms of the racing. As for other things with the next-gen cars, one of them, it only happened at the beginning of the race. Thankfully, it didn't happen late in the race, but the wheels fell off, like flew off the car. It first happened to Kaz Grala. NASCAR, Fox specifically, sure did enjoy their commercials today. I mean, we'll talk about the wheel thing, then we'll go into commercial rant. But anyways, Kaz Grala's wheel just flew off the car and caused a stack-up. Chase Briscoe ended up spinning out, but he ended up being okay, rallied back to finish third, actually. But that was weird, and that's going to be a suspension for someone if you don't get the lug nuts tight on the old car with the 5 lug nuts and a wheel flew off. It was a 4 or 5 race suspension for the crew chief, and I think the pit crew members as well that were working on that specific tire. But with 1 lug nut now, I don't know what the rule is, and I'm also wondering, how do you miss a lug nut when there's only 1 of them? Or what happened there? I'm very curious to if they genuinely just messed up on the lug nut, if they missed it, or just forgot to switch the setting to put it back in. I don't know if something broke, but the wheel and the tire went off. And then as for Justin Haley's wheel basically just destroyed itself. I mean, it was gone. Like, the tire was completely removed and the wheel was gone when he came to pit road after. And, I don't know what happened because we didn't get that many replays. But that leads me to my next rant. Oh my gosh, Fox, I get it. You need commercials. You need your money. I don't think we had a 10-lap stretch without commercials. I don't get it. You have stage breaks to do commercials now, so you can throw a ton of commercials during then. You're going to have cautions at the end of the race with wrecks. Throw them in during then. Why do they have to do it during green flag when there's like a side-by-side battle for the lead? Or green flag when it's starting to get interesting? Why do they have to have so many commercials? I get you need it for money, but do you really need it every 8 laps? I mean, come on, guys. Come on. It was very annoying because they would always do commercials and there'd be a caution as the commercial started, and I'd be on social media, oh my gosh, there's a crash, or oh my gosh, someone's spinning, oh my gosh, a wheel's flying off. And I'm like, why are we on commercials? Sorry. Oh, how could I forget? Why was there NASCAR in my commercials? I forgot that I tuned into a commercial screening and, this NASCAR kept on popping up. I had it all wrong. But yes, that was very annoying. And then also Fox just sometimes chose the wrong camera. Like when Harrison Burton flipped, they were on the bumper cam and we didn't see him flip. I didn't even know he flipped until a full 2 minutes later because they wouldn't show us the replay. Anyways, speaking of other next-gen car things that we're talking about, I hope that wheel thing is not an issue, a big issue. Hopefully it gets fixed. But yeah, actually RFK and someone else got their wheels confiscated and investigated. So hopefully that can shed some light into things. But then another concern. The next-gen car gets airborne quite easily. Harrison Burton wrecked on lap 63 along with Kyle Busch, Christopher Bell, Denny Hamlin, and William Byron, and a couple other guys. And Burton got turned around by Keselowski, who just kind of hit him at the wrong angle. And Burton got airborne pretty quickly. I get it. We're still going 180, 190 miles an hour in a race car. Cars are going to get airborne. But the point over the past few years has been to reduce the risk. The risk is never going to be fully gone. There's always going to be the risk of a car getting upside down at super speedway because really if you're going over 100 miles an hour, there's always the chance of getting flipped. There's always a chance of going airborne. So that's not the concern. I'm not saying we have to completely eliminate the risk, but the point over the past few years has been to reduce the risk of cars going airborne. And in our first wreck of the next-gen car at Daytona, we saw a flip. And that was a little bit concerning about how easily he flipped. So hopefully that's not a big issue. We didn't see any other flips late in the race, thankfully, but hopefully that can get resolved. Remember, this is the first race of the next-gen car, so I guess I am criticizing it technically, but I'm not doing it in a harsh manner. I'm just saying maybe these are things that are still being looked at. I don't think the car, while it is, safe enough and good enough to go out there and race, obviously, every Sunday, I think it's still in the development process. They're going to learn as time goes on, as they go to different tracks, as there's more cars on track for things to happen. They're going to learn, okay, here's some things we need to tweak, here's some things we need to adjust on, and they'll adjust them as time goes on, which is good. You know, we can't say right now, oh, the next gen car is bad, or oh my gosh, that's so dangerous. Why is this a problem? You know, we need to give it time to fully develop. But those are just a couple of concerns. Obviously, you know, the car's still being developed, so it's not really a thing of anger like, oh my gosh, fix this now. It's a, you know, just an observation of saying, well, maybe those things do still need to be tweaked on. Anyways, trying to think of anything else. There were a few wrecks at the end. When we go through the finishing results, we'll talk about who's involved in those. But man, what a great weekend for NASCAR. Once again, we talked about how great the LA Coliseum weekend was for NASCAR, how fun that was. And this weekend was another great one. It was a great race as well. As I said earlier, lots of different leaders. We saw different lines being run, as we always do at Daytona. And they didn't do single file for too long. Last year, they were single file most of the race after an early crash, and they were kind of scared to wreck each other. But we didn't really see a lot. Guys were more racy this year, even though there was an early crash that took out a lot of contenders. We saw guys still race, still, you know, step out of line and try to make something happen. They would get some guys to go with them. We still saw manufacturer alliances. That's not a shock at all, but, you know, it was a very fun race. Lots of different leaders, lots of different guys up front. I really enjoyed this race. But, yeah, let's go through the results. Time to go through some finishing results of the 2022 Daytona 500. Austin Cindric, the rookie, is your winner. What a great start to the rookie campaign for Cindric. You know, I expected him. I picked him to make the playoffs. I didn't know if he was going to win, and I thought his best shot was going to be at a road course, to be honest. I know he has some super speedway wins. In fact, I think he won in 2021 at Daytona in the Xfinity Series, but I didn't think he would win the Daytona 500 right off the bat. Obviously, Team Penske has a great super speedway program. Logano's got a few wins. Blaney has a few wins. Keselowski has the most wins of active drivers, and they were all with Team Penske with the exception of his first win. But, you know, he's started off great, and he's continued the trend that Team Penske is great at these super speedways, and he wins the Daytona 500 in his 8th career start, his first start for Team Penske on Roger Penske's birthday. That's a tremendous start to his rookie campaign, so very happy for him. Obviously, very happy for him. Good for him. He's into the playoffs. He's leading. He might be leading the points. But anyways, second place, Bubba Wallace. Oh, so close yet again. He finished second in the 2018 Daytona 500 to Austin Dillon, I believe. He finishes runner-up in the Daytona 500 for the second time. Came very close. Tried to make a run on Cindric in those last 300, 400 feet, but couldn't quite get there, and Cindric ended up winning. But Bubba finished second, tried really hard to get there. He was involved in a wreck that actually sent the race to a green-white checkered finish, and he had some damage to the side of his car, but it didn't affect him that much as he was able to still finish second. Third place, Chase Briscoe came back from an early spin in this race and finished third. A really good run for him. Obviously, last year he struggled a bit at times, or for most of the season, I would say, but a great start to his 2022 campaign with a third-place finish. Great finish for him. Fourth place, Ryan Blaney led a lot of laps in this race. Was one of the best cars all day long. Was leading. He was up front, pushing his teammates. And he had a great run. He had coming off of turn 4, he made a good move, was to the outside of Austin Cindric, but Cindric went up to block because he wanted to win the Daytona 500. I don't blame him. And he put Blaney in the wall. Blaney got all out of shape, and some guys started checking up and wrecking and stuff. But Blaney ends up fourth. And, man, I got to admit, I was a bit scared. I thought Cindric was going to wreck Ryan Blaney there right at the end. When he threw that block, I thought he was going to put them both in the wall, and I guess it would have been Bubba or Briscoe getting the win. But that was a great run for Blaney, and once again, one of the best super speedway racers in NASCAR comes so close yet again to the Daytona 500. Fifth place, Eric Almirola in his final Daytona 500. At least for what we know, he could come back. You never know. But at least for Stewart-Haas Racing, finishes fifth. He's always been a good super speedway winner. He has a win at Talladega. He has a win at Daytona. So he's won at the super speedways before. Had some speed this weekend. He ends up getting a top 5. Avoided some late wrecks to get up there. Finished in the top 5. Also, 2 Stewart-Haas cars in the top 5 today. They struggled a lot last year, so really good to see them up there in the top 5. Stewart-Haas as a whole, that is. 6th place, Kyle Busch. I thought today was the day. He had avoided wrecks. He had had some things go his way. Luck was finally going in his direction, the Daytona 500. He has had some poor luck in the Daytona 500. In fact, he surpassed Tony Stewart today for most laps led in the Daytona 500 without winning. While Tony Stewart was in the booth, they kept on making fun of him for that, which I think I called a few weeks ago. But Kyle Busch had a great run today. He had a great car, even with some damage. It was minor damage. He was able to still get a top 10, and he was contending for that win at the end. I thought today was the day, but not quite. 7th place, Michael McDowell, defending his Daytona 500 championship win. Finishes 7th. Good top 10 win for him. He's always a great super speedway racer. Not shocked to see him up there. 8th place, David Reagan, another great super speedway racer who came out of retirement for this one race, the Daytona 500 for Rick Ware. Gets a top 10 finish. Can't say I'm too shocked. He's always been a good plate racer. 9th place, Brad Keselowski. Just like Kyle Busch, at times I thought today's the day. He led almost 70 laps today. He was up front, one of the best cars, controlled the lanes. He was able to give some great pushes, sometimes too great of pushes. He wrecked a couple guys today. He triggered some wrecks. But in his RFK debut, he does get a top 10 with a 9th place finish. They had a really good weekend. They won a duel with Keselowski, and they won the other duel with Buescher. They get a top 10 this weekend. I'd say that's a really good weekend for him, but obviously wanted that win. So close. 10th place, Chase Elliott. Good run for him. He was able to avoid most things today. Had a spin late in this one, but so many cars had been taken out. He was able to just finish in the top 10. 11th, Ty Dillon. Good run for him for Petty GMS in their debut. Eric Jones was running up there in the top 5 at times, but he was involved in a wreck late. 12th, Daniel Hemrick was multiple laps down at one point because he had to serve a pass-through penalty at the beginning of the race due to inspection failures, but he rallies back for a 12th. 13th, Martin Truex Jr. He swept the stages, looked really good today, but was involved in a couple of wrecks. Ends up 13th. Corey LaJoie 14th. Landon Castle 15th. Good runs for both of them. 16th, Chris Buescher was involved in a late race incident, was able to come back and finish 16th, one lap down. He was the first car one lap down, so 15 cars on the lead lap. 17th, Cody Ware. Good start to the season for him. 18th, Daniel Suarez. 19th, Kurt Busch. 20th, Cole Custer. 21st, Joey Logano. All involved in late race crashes. Custer actually, he had some issues. He had to pit during the green flag. Then he had a speeding penalty. Then he lost the draft. But yeah, good for him. 22nd, the Canadian, the guy we've been talking about for so long now, Jacques Villeneuve, ends up finishing 22nd. And that's a good run for a team that in their debut race, that's not bad. They qualified on speed like 33rd or 34th, I want to say, maybe even 35th. So, you know, I didn't expect them to win. I joked about it, but I didn't expect them to win. But, you know, I figured if things fall their way, if they can keep their car clean, maybe a top 10, top 15 is in the works. But a 22nd place for a debut team, that's not too bad. Good for him. Good for that team, for Team Heserberg. Good run for him. He fell out of the draft like on lap 3, got lapped, was able to get his lap back. He was up in the top 20 at some point, but unfortunately fell back out of the draft, had to pit under green. Fell a couple of laps down, ended up 3 laps down in 22nd, so a good run for him. 23rd, Justin Haley overcame that early wheel problem. 23rd. 24th, Alex Bowman was involved in that lap 63 wreck. Ends up 4 laps down in 24th. Austin Dillon, 25th. Kaz Gralla, 26th, 5 laps down. 27th, BJ McLeod, 28th. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. was leading with just a few laps to go. He ends up crashing out of the top 5 and finishing in 28th. I really thought he could get it done there. 29th, Eric Jones had a great run going before being involved in a crash. 30th, Kevin Harvick was also involved in a crash. 31st, Gregson. 32nd, Larson. 33rd, Todd Gilliland were all involved in the same crash. Todd Gilliland was up there in the top 5 late in this race. He was looking to become the rookie to win the Daytona 500. 34th was Christopher Bell. 35th, Tyler Reddick. Bell was involved in the lap 63 crash. Reddick was involved in a crash in, I want to say stage 2, maybe early stage 3, where he just kind of lost control of his car, wrecked in front of Villeneuve, and everyone else behind just kind of got involved. 36, Greg Biffle had mechanical engine problems very, very early in this race. He ends up finishing 65 laps down in his NASCAR return in 36th. 37th, Denny Hamlin. Fun fact, this was his first ever DNF in the Daytona 500. That is extremely impressive considering he's been around since, 2005, 2006? So very impressive run comes to an end for him. He was one of the favorites, if not the favorite for this race. Was involved in that wreck with Harrison, Burton, and others. And ends his streak of finishing the 500. And in fact, his first DNF since July of 2020 when he blew a tire out of the lead at Indianapolis. 38th, William Byron hit the inside wall hard in that one wreck early in the race on lap 63. 39th, Harrison Burton had a really fast car, was up contending for the lead when he was involved in that crash. The first ever flip in the next-gen car belongs to Harrison Burton. 40th, Ross Chastain was also involved in that crash at the end of this race. But overall, I really enjoyed this race. The next-gen cars had so much hype and anticipation. I didn't know what was going to happen in this race. I didn't know if they were going to be really conservative and potentially not race as hard to protect the cars, if they were going to be overly aggressive, something like last year and wreck early. But they did a good job of keeping it clean for the most part. It wasn't like a crash fest at the end where there were 7 straight cautions within 10 laps or something. But, there were 4 or 5 maybe at most at the end there. But overall, a pretty good race, a very enjoyable race, I would say, in terms of the entertainment. You had a lot of different guys up front. You have a new winner, a rookie winner. I thoroughly enjoyed this race. 9 out of 10. It's a 9 out of 10 for me on the race scale, whatever we want to call it. So, yeah, I really enjoyed this race. Let me know what you thought of the race. Let me know if you're shocked that Austin Cindric won. Let me know if you thought he was going to be a contender this whole time and you're not too shocked he won. Really happy for him. Really cool to see him win in his Team Penske debut. But, I'm looking forward to the rest of this NASCAR season. Next week, the series goes to Auto Club in California for the first time since 2020. So, yeah, if you like this video, leave a like. If you like the channel, subscribe. We talk about motorsports a lot on here. So, if you want to keep up with motorsports, here I am. But have a great rest of your day, great rest of your weekend, the hours that are left on it. And I'll see you maybe tomorrow. Yeah, actually, yes, I forgot to mention this in the Chase Elliott part. He signed a 5-year extension with Hendrick Motorsports.